So now that we have looked at the difference between a dichotomy for the innate versus the adaptive or acquired immunity, it's probably a good time to see what the roles of each of those cells are in a nutshell. So to begin with, if we look at the T lymphocytes, you'll remember that I said that there was the helper, the suppressor, and the cytolytic cells. These are abbreviated to TH, TS, and TC. Suppressor can also be called regulator, which would be abbreviated to TR. They are interchangeable terms. Please don't be concerned about either of them. I find that the wording suppressor is a lot more descriptive for the role that they're actually going to help with. So let's begin with this. A helper cell will initiate an immune response. What that means is it's going to control the presence of phagocytes. It'll control the rate of cytokines that are released, attracting things to the particular area of infection. So things like macrophages and neutrophils need to be drawn into that particular spot, as well as your B lymphocytes and other T lymphocytes. So its role is to increase those. The suppressor cell, as you can probably pick, its job is to decrease the reaction once the immune system has overcome that particular pathogen. Without this, you can't get that negative feedback because the helper cell is increasing and continually increasing, and more cells into the environment gets more cells into the environment. So it's acting almost like it's positive feedback. The suppressor cell helps to work that through once the immune system has defended that pathogen. So it reduces the reaction and the response. The cytolytic cells, the other word that we said they could be called before is that they are the killer T cells. That's perfectly acceptable as a name for them. If you can't remember cytolytic, here's a way. Cyto, it looks like cytoplasm. And this guy here is lysis, which means, of course, to break something down. Your cytolytic or your killer T cells, they're responsible for literally creating a cell-mediated immunity. They are the killers. They will release substances that will perforate. So it's an enzyme which is called perforin, and that will cause holes to be punched in cells. And as a consequence of that, the cell will undergo lysis and die. So your cytolytic cells, they're your killer cells. Now, of course, we've also got to remind you from the from the innate system, you've got to remind yourself about natural killer cells as well, your NK cells, which are non-specific. So your cytolytic T cells, they're doing that job. For the B lymphocytes, on the other hand, you're dealing with your plasma cells and your memory cells. Your plasma cells are responsible for the creation of antibodies. They are the good guys in the system. And the memory cell is responsible for creating long-term immunity. Long-term immunity will mean that once you've encountered a pathogen once, then hopefully, so long as the antigen epitopes aren't changing, then you should confer lifelong immunity to that particular pathogen, providing your memory cells remain in circulation. I'll show you how they do that. What we need to do is investigate what are antibodies and how do they respond to antigens. We'll tackle that in the next video.